thank all of you for being here. My name is Larry Curley. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation, and traditionally it is a formal introduction in the Navajo way. I am Ose Ashia, Tanesana Ea, Dashija, Tachinea, Dashache, Ashin, Dashanala. And those are my four clans, both of my mother's side, my father's side, my maternal grandparents, and my paternal grandparents. And that's how you understand your relationship with other people in Indian country, especially in the Navajo Nation. I would like to, as any traditional as well, traditionally, one always begins with a prayer. And when you have a meeting like this, so that there will be good thoughts, and my prayer will be in Navajo. So here we go. Haran he masada don he chetan lenin to the yego bachenda said over chenda now that the bakati kata badanti kahot aden he yata ho ahot ayan he masadon he che he nala dan lenin dan he nes tra asia penina dishigo conda di combayatel tigi naska ban sete kesela yat e not a ni kata le yat in sete kesela. But de nishikiat yon answer the case for I wouldn't claw not a knee cart or let, but I na oshkan or dishna, the codorats as a go codot, so there's an eight nanish lad or let. Hujana hustling, Hujana hustling, Hujana hustling, Hujana hustling. And that was a prayer that we have good thoughts for this particular meeting. And now what I would like to do is turn over this particular part of the meeting to our guest speaker and our key person out there, Valerie Tsosie, who is also a member of my tribe, the Navajo Nation, and she is with Navajo Division of Aging. And Valerie, thank you very much, and it's all yours.
Yeah, Shana, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, everybody. Shay Valerie Tsosie and Shia dot Lashin Shalom Katness and Nibashichin Twitchini that should say dot Habai the Shinale a call again the Hasel Kaigi Shik A doshadane. Again, thank you for joining us today, and hopefully I have some of my relatives out there and my older brother Larry introducing me. So we'll go ahead and just start off here, getting our presentation on. Here, there we go. And we will be talking about understanding Alzheimer's and dementia. I've been working with the caregiver program for around 5 years, and I have taught all over the Navajo reservation. So some of my statistics will be coming from Navajo and what I see out on, I guess what they say, Indian country. So understanding Alzheimer's, we're going to be comparing Alzheimer's and dementia, recognize how Alzheimer's disease affects the brains, list the risk factors of Alzheimer's disease, identifying the 3 stages of disease, recognize current FDA approval treatments that can address some of the symptoms of the disease, describe how scientists are working to advance research, and name the resources available through the Alzheimers Association. So here we go. And we'll start off with a little quiz. So approximately how many Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's? If you guys can go ahead and put it in the chat, let's see if you have that correct. Oh, I can't see without, I can't see the chat without bringing my share screen down. Okay, we have some people. We'll give it a couple more seconds if you want to put in your guess. Approximately how many Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's? Over 3 million, more than 6 million, about 8 million, or about 11 million. Okay, looks like we have a pretty good roundabout. Thank you for participating. Let's go ahead and move that forward. Oops. So the answer is more than 6 million. That is a lot. And I'm going to tell you right now, diagnosing if somebody has dementia or Alzheimer's on Indian country is really, really hard. Harder than on the outside if you're not living on a reservation. So in that, our numbers they're probably a lot higher, honestly, just because getting that diagnosis is very hard. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide here and give you another quiz. So please put in the chat again. Is Alzheimer a normal part of the aging process? True or false? All right. This is awesome. So a lot of you have gotten this correct, which is false. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. I think a lot of times when you're learning about this, to remember that it is not a normal process. It's actually, again, a cause in the brain with your memory, and it affects your thinking and behavior. So let's do another test here and let's see how you guys do. So people younger than age 65 can get Alzheimer's. True or false? Oh, wow. You guys are great. Thank you again for participating. And a lot of you, I don't even see one that says, so you know this for sure. True. People younger than 65 can get Alzheimer's. Matter of fact, the youngest age that somebody has had an effect of Alzheimer's and dementia was 12. Isn't that wild? 12. And right now, we're actually having a lot of our people and well, not just like people like on Indian country, but around the world that are actually getting the effects of Alzheimer's now, earlier, more than 65. What I'm noticing and have tracked down is around 45 is the average age that people are reporting and saying that, you know, mom is kind of acting a little bit weird. Is this dementia? Is this Alzheimer's? Like a yo-yo ne, she's really she's really forgetting. Is that normal? And I'm getting those type of calls, and because Alzheimer's can get triggered by trauma, and right now, COVID is trauma. So that's why we're seeing these. So it's going to be really hard, and we need a lot of that support and education, because what we would have been dealing with, right? Let's say your loved one is 45, and even if they self-report, if you're self-reporting yourself, that's also something as well. So if you're got it at 45, which you had a 20-year gap there, that you're starting to deal with these type of issues that normally you probably taking you maybe additional 20 years to kind of deal with. And but now it's kind of progressed that. So that's why we're really going forward and charging to provide these type of trainings to our people, because you need to know, and a lot of our reservations do not have resources on the reservation. On Navajo, we don't have resources as well. What I do is I partner with the Alzheimers Association and other partners such as NICOA to bring this type of information, and then we have to refer them off of the reservation. I'm pretty sure it's the same where you guys are, so just keep that in mind. And now, what is dementia? So dementia, as you guys can see on the slide, is an umbrella term, and that's why we use umbrella. So just like you say candy, dementia. So there's all different types of candy, right? And that's how you have the little raindrops there on the bottom. And like I said, there's different types of candy. So dementia is the big overall word, and the most common type of dementia is Alzheimer's. So 60–80% of people who get diagnosed will most likely have Alzheimer's. The next most likely will be Lewy bodies, dementia, and then we have vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia, and then we have many other, which is Parkinson and Huntington's. So there's a whole different type, but Alzheimer's is the most common. So this is why it's important to get diagnosed early as possible. And like I was saying before, if you are self-diagnosing yourself, you know your body, you know there's something going on, make sure you're taking those notes. And as many of you guys may or may not know, IHS is not very helpful. When you go into the hospital, they're normally, when you say that I have something wrong with me, they'll say, oh, that's normal. That's okay. That's nothing to worry about. Or they'll kind of just brush you off, right? A lot of those. So you have to be your own advocate. And the best way to do that is writing those, yourself. Like, no, I know, like in the morning, I never used to do this. In the afternoon, I don't know why I'm doing this. You're catching yourself. And that's very good because you're self-aware. And it's good to write those notes. So when you go to the hospital, asking your doctor, like, hey, this is something that's been going on, I want help, and they try to brush you off, you can get out your notepad or your notes and say, hey, no, there's something wrong here because, A, B, C, whatever you have written down, and then you have to fight for yourself to get that diagnosis. So keep that in mind as well. If you need additional help, you can lean on your friends and family, but it's really good to have those notes for yourself. So if it is it stress? Is it not? And you know what too? It can be dehydration. Because you're making, you don't have the liquid going into your brain. Remember, we're like over 90% of water in our body. So those type of things, keep that in mind. You want to keep track of that for yourself. So dementia is a general term for collection of symptoms that are severe enough, to interfere with daily life. So again, we said that this is not a normal type. So sometimes, right, and I do that too, I'll have my coffee and I might leave it on top of the car. And then you just drive off and you're like, oh, shoot, when you hear that. So, we do that sometimes. Maybe we do that a lot, but you know that those are some things that are a little bit more common. But if it starts interfering with your life, let's say that you're not even brushing your teeth anymore, that is a humongous sign because it's interfering with your daily life. Your hygiene is very important, brushing your teeth and keeping up with those type of things. I'm not reading all of the slides, so you guys can go ahead and read those, and those will also be available for you. So, moving on. So this one is really great, just kind of giving you some information on how your brain works. So in your brain, we have these little, as you see those little clusters there, when you're doing something new, when you're thinking, as you're talking, as you're listening to me, as you're watching this, in your brain, you have these little sparks. And especially if you're doing something new. So those branches, that's the connection from the one big cluster to the next big cluster. You're creating those highways and you're actually really, you're increasing your brain function. So when, again, Alzheimer's, your brain is actually shrinking. Can you believe that? It is shrinking. That is why this is so scary and how you're losing part of your memory. So part of the exercises, as you could say, as preventing Alzheimer's as well, doing something new, always try something new. That's how you're sparking these neurons in your brain. So one thing that I really like to tell people in my training is, if you're right-handed, start doing something with your left hand. If you're left-handed, start doing stuff with your right hand. That's how you're sparking again these little neurons in your brain and you're exercising your brain. Same thing with starting, something new. If you're brushing your teeth, brush it with your non-dominant hand in the morning. And then some people say, well, then I don't do my teeth all great. All right, well, then go with the other side and go over it with again. But the whole point of this is you're trying to exercise your brain the way you exercise your body so you can help that prevention of Alzheimer's and dementia. So which functions are affected? These are the parts of your brain that function, help you function. So the language, sense of temperature, touch, and pain is actually that middle part of your brain. That's where language comes from. That's where sense of temperature comes from and pain comes from. And your judgment and reasoning comes in from your frontal lobe here. Your language and memory hearing comes in around about like your ear level, and then down there by your spine area is going to be the basic functions, including breathing. So, and you can see the other areas there, vision and movement and balance. So this is just telling you what part of your brain is affecting, how you're functioning in your daily life. So as I was saying before, that Alzheimer's and dementia, your brain actually shrinks. On the left-hand side there, as you can see, it says your healthy brain. As you can see, it's full. Everything is full there. It looks very healthy, like it has enough moisture. When you have Alzheimer's, as time progresses, it will look like on the right side. It's going to be enlarged, that ventricle area, the cortex shrivels, especially near the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is actually where your short-term memory is stored. So if you're like for this training, you're able to remember after this training, what we've gone over today and even next week, you're able to remember that's the hippocampus. So that's why when you have Alzheimer's, the short-term memory is the first part to go. They can't remember. And the old thing where mom keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Why does dad keep asking me the same questions? I told them already, but they can't remember. That's because it's affecting that hippocampus area. So we have a couple of risk factors. Oh, great. We get to have another quiz here. So, what is the greatest risk factor for Alzheimer's disease? Genetics, family history, or age? You guys can go ahead and put that into the chat. Genetics, okay, we got a lot of people. Family history, age. Okay, let's see. Thank you for participating again. Let's see if you're right. I wish this was like, we had somebody said all. If we have our raffles, right? Oh man, I would have been like, hey, you get a blanket. Just kidding. Let's see here. Oh, did I push it? Come on. So the answer is age. Although Alzheimer's is not a normal, not part of aging normal, age is a great risk factor for the disease. After age 65, the risk of Alzheimer's doubles every 5 years. 32% of people age 85 or older have Alzheimer's. That's why a lot of times, I know for me and my family, I really try to have them try some new things or even teach me some new things to keep their minds going. And especially with technology, right? I don't know about you guys, but I love teaching grandma, grandpa, my mom, my dad about TikTok so they can kind of figure out what's going on with that. And I always say that I don't know about you guys' area, but in the senior centers around that I've been in, I see grandma over there with an iPhone and they are going through Facebook and giving me the news. So they even have learned that. So it's always good to kind of engage, with your elders in some way so that they can keep their minds fresh and functioning. Okay, let's go through. Do we have another quiz? Okay, populations at high risk. We have all of our minorities here that are at high risk for Indian country. it is so much higher, as I've said before, where we have no facilities on the reservation. I'm actually considered at the capital of Navajo Nation, and it's 3 hours away, one way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that's closer for me. If I needed to go to Phoenix, Arizona, that is actually about 6-7 hours away from me, one way. So in that, this is where we're having, I know that our numbers are definitely way higher than what they're telling us, is because the diagnosis is one of the biggest hurdles that we have on Indian country. Again, that's where you have to, if you're self-diagnosing or you're helping a family member, you're somebody that's concerned, you're kind of thinking like, is it not? That's why I came today. I need to learn more about it. That is excellent. Keep learning, keep asking questions, write down those notes. You have to be that advocate for yourself, because IHS is not going to be that helpful. A lot of times, matter of fact, statistics have shown that doctors are they're not comfortable with diagnosing somebody with dementia. They don't know very much about it. So that's why having the Alzheimer's Association and other outreach programs is very important, so that you become that expert. You want to know about that because we want to help our loved ones. So always keep that in mind. So we just have a little recap on our risk factors here. Age is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's, as you guys did the quiz very well. And the average risk for dementia is 65. However, like I said, I've been hearing reports all over that 45, they're starting to self-report, and or you're noticing that, your family member, your loved one is kind of, you're suspecting. So keep that in mind as well. Family history is also known as a risk factor. Having a parent or sibling with disease increases the individual risks. So if that was in your family, those are good things to know too, so you can help prevent some of these, help to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia, or at least to prolong. Risk genes and determinant genes are two types of genes associated with Alzheimer's. So again, it's in the person's genes, as if they have like their mom, their grandma, etc., who may have had Alzheimer's or dementia. Hispanics, African Americans, and women are at increased risk for Alzheimer's, and that is also Native Americans at a high point. Women definitely are number one, because we're the ones that are doing everything, right? We're the ones that are neglecting ourselves, because we're not just women. We are working in the home, we have kids, we have parents, we have work, we might have animals. We're constantly thinking and we're planning in our daily lives that when we're taking care of whoever we're caring for, we forget about ourselves. And you're not going to the doctor for your appointments, but you're right on it for grandma or grandpa or for your loved one. Hey, you're over there scheduling. And the thing too is, you're over there making, your person, your loved one, a beautiful, nutritious meal, maybe a salad with some grilled chicken. And you say, here you go. I care about you. I want you to have this amazing meal. And then what does the caregiver do? They're going to McDonald's. They're going to Taco Bell, and they're getting that drive-through. Is that a good thing? That's not a great thing. That's not caring for yourself. So just as much as you care for your caregiver, please put that for yourself too. When your person has an appointment, make your own appointments at the same time, so you don't have to worry about it. You guys can be on the same schedule. Or if you're fortunate enough to have somebody care for them, well, you go on your appointments. We also have the respite program with the Alzheimers Association, and that is a free program where somebody can come in and substitute or take over for you while you go take care of whatever you need to take care of. So keep that in mind. So we have the stages of Alzheimer's too. So the report usually is that when somebody gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, they're told, okay, you have dementia, you have Alzheimer's. go get your affairs in order, as if they're gonna pass within the next 2 weeks or the next month or 3 months or even the year. That is not true at all. If you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, it can be a lengthy process. That's why it's very important to get yourself diagnosed early. If you again came here suspecting, if you're self-diagnosing, you know that as a caregiver, you're with your person 24/7. Yes, there's something wrong. You need to start writing those notes for yourself. You know yourself, you know how you function, and you see something wrong, start writing those notes, because early diagnosis is the best thing for you. The earlier you can get it, the more of a handle that you can get, the more information that you can get, the more resources that you have to help you during this long prolonged process. An average person that lives with Alzheimer's can go down from 6 years to 20 years. So we have the early stage, you have recent memory loss, difficult managing money, driving, handling social situations. In the middle stage, you have difficulty with language. Maybe you forget the names of things. You have a hard time talking. Problems keeping track of personal items, losing your purse, losing your keys, your wallet. You may need help with grooming, because at that time, again, your brain is shrinking. So maybe you forget how to do some of these things, and that's what happens. In the late stage is long or short-term memory effects and needs care around the clock. You have more progressive type of uh, symptoms. So there is where you're wandering, if you just kind of take off, uh, even trying to eat, again, those type of things. There's all of these different stages. And again, if you're diagnosed, you need to know what stage you're at, and the earlier the better, because there's more resources for you to help you with the symptoms. Not everybody progresses with the disease in the same way. So we're kind of saying some of these things like, okay, you're forgetting about this. You're constantly asking the same thing over and over. Again, you know yourself, you know your person. So if you're writing those down, this is weird. They never did this before. And even can be, this is annoying. I told them already. How come they're not remembering? Didn't I say this already? And you yourself kind of get a little bit annoyed. Those are things to write down, because those might be symptoms. Uh, and you need to take care of those, because again, it might be something else too. That's why it's very important. It might be, how would you say, the dehydration or even depression. So that's why it's really important to manage, how do I feel today? Or how is my person today? They're a little bit better today. Maybe it's aggravation. So again, keep those in mind. Here are a few of the FDA approved treatments. The earlier, the better again. So then you can get treatment that can help you with these type of symptoms. If you're more in the later stage and it's getting more severe, it would be harder, and you would have less, how would you say, less treatments that might be available. But if you catch it earlier, that's where they can start doing the testing, and you will still know what's going on as well, so that you can go ahead and make sure that you're understanding kind of what's going on with your illness with dementia or Alzheimer's. There are clinical trials as well. So if you start, you can always contact, again, the Alzheimers Association, and they can get a specialist for you. Their phone number, this is a national number, so whatever state you're in, you can call them at 1-800-272-3900, or catch them on their website at alz.org. And that's where you can start talking with somebody about the clinical trials. If you already with somebody who's diagnosed, maybe you need some more of those questions. How do I get diagnosed? What do I do now that I've gotten diagnosed? Hey, now my person is starting to get mad at me and they're being mean. I cannot sleep because they keep wandering. These type of questions, you can actually call them again at the 1-800-272-3900, and they can help you in kind of, helping you with that stuff. As a caregiver, it's really hard and it's tough. I know that you guys do a lot of work and the job, you're most likely you're doing it by yourself. So if you need that time to vent, you need that time to talk with somebody, to go over something with someone, please call them and they can give you some help. Oh, and I just kind of went over this. So this one is for the trial match. Again, if you are diagnosed and depending on what stage of your Alzheimer's or dementia you've been diagnosed at, you may be able to get into a trial match. And you can go ahead and get more information at alz.org/trial match. And always call their 1-800 number. It's a 24/7 number, 1-800-272-3900. And we have the Alzheimers Association. They are so amazing, I'm telling you. They're the experts in their field. There is an office or a chapter in each state. So don't think it's just in one state. They have educational programs for families and professionals. They have the 24/7 hotline that we talked about earlier, the 1-800-272-3900. They have information and referrals. Maybe you need help with, again, respite. They have those programs for free where somebody can come in as a substitute for you, and or if you need maybe help where mom and dad have to, maybe I need to look into getting a caregiver to really come in and help me during these times. They can also help you with that and get you a care consultant. There are support groups. Like I said, as a caregiver, you guys have the biggest heart. And as women, a lot of you forget about yourself sometimes, and even the men, because as a caregiver, you're really putting a lot of time and energy to your person. And we understand that. So support groups are really good. That's where you can talk to each other. I don't know about you, but when I would talk to somebody about what I was going through as a caregiver, it felt like I was talking through the wall, like talking to a wall, talking to a rock, talking to nobody, even though somebody was there, because I was this thing. They'll say, yeah, and you're like, you don't know. Like, do you really know? This is what I have to go through, and you have that heaviness of what you're going through, which is normal. And it's good to talk about it in these support groups with other caregivers that know what you're going through. So you can kind of, in the Nejago, we call it hikilto. You can get it off of your back and then you can move on again. That's another thing why you need to be taking care of yourself and making sure that your cup is full. Because if you're not full, how are you going to be helping your person or others? So keep that in mind, that these support groups are there and the services are available for you. But there's an online community, especially now with COVID. There's online training. I know that could be a little bit hard, but there's also, again, that 1-800 number you can call and talk to somebody. And safety services, especially with wandering, when the progression of Alzheimer's or dementia gets more, you need to learn about these things and how you can have these tips and tricks to help you take care of your loved one through the progression. We also have Walk in Alzheimer's, which is so much fun. We actually have a couple around the reservation, and we actually participated in one as a group in 2018 with the Alzheimers Association, and we were doing awareness, again, fundraising. We have that support for each other. If you're able to go, please do, and just enjoy the festivities and knowing that you're not alone. Again, you can reach the Alzheimer's Association 24/7 helpline at 1-800-272-3900. We also have the website at alz.org. Oh, and that completes our training. And again, you will be receiving the PowerPoint presentation, I believe, in email. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat so we can answer that for you. I really hope that you guys gained a lot of information today. I see that we have some respite information in the chat as well. Yes, really try to help you with the information. I know that a lot, again, we don't have these resources on the reservation. So as much as we can give, I know I want to give because we want you to be informed. Let's see here. Do you have any information about prevalence or annual incidence of, I'm not sure what AD means in Native Americans. I'm guessing it's Alzheimer's and dementia. So this is where we had a meeting at one time with IHS, and they told us in the presentation that they had no information of statistics about Native Americans with Alzheimer's or dementia. I never understood that because when you go into the hospital, you tell them why you're there, right? So I kept asking them that, why do you not have that list for us? And this was recent because IHS actually received a $5 million grant, and they were asking on how we could, how they could help us. And what I was saying is we need somebody on the reservation to help with diagnosis, because diagnosis is one of the biggest hurdles that we have.
Yeah, Valerie, thank you so much for giving that presentation. It was wonderful, and I loved all of your examples. And I think that's a good question about statistics, and we certainly do need to gain more information about Native Americans and Alzheimer's. I think what I've seen is at 1 in 3 may be true as well, but we certainly need more information. And to your point about, getting involved in research, that trial match program can match people with studies that they're eligible for, but it's certainly up to them as to whether they want to participate or not. So, that representation across so many different diverse and underrepresented communities, including Indian country, is critical.
Absolutely. I think I really like this question, Edie, if you can help answer. What causes Alzheimer's?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, I think that's what the researchers are certainly looking at. And we know that the end result of people with Alzheimer's have what's called plaques and tangles in the brain. So that amyloid plaque, excessive amount. We all have a little bit of it, but for some reason, people with Alzheimer's have a lot of that amyloid plaque and the tau tangles. So these certain proteins that have built up. And so the question is, how do we resolve Alzheimer's? We really don't know what is exactly the cause. And so we need as much research as possible to look at all the different avenues of possible causes. So the most recent FDA approved treatment is aducanumab, which is the brand name Aduhelm, that really looks at the amyloid, reducing the amount of amyloid in the brain. But we don't know if that's the only perhaps reason or cause, right? So there might be other things to look at. And so it's something that many researchers are examining.
Definitely. I think if you can just reiterate for ourselves on this next question is, when should someone request a baseline?
Well, And so anyone over the age of 65, if you do an annual visit, there is a cognitive screening that is covered by Medicare that people are eligible for. And that cognitive screening is asking simply a few simple questions with your primary care physician to see if it warrants further testing with someone who's an expert on the brain. So for example, a neurologist or a neuropsychiatrist or a geriatrician, someone who's an expert in dealing with older adults. So that's really important. I like your point, Valerie, about the fact that people know themselves and know whether they are experiencing memory loss or having some cognitive decline. And you know, there's some statistics around what's called subjective cognitive decline, meaning I suspect myself as having that memory issues. So if you are sensing that in yourself or of your loved one or a family member, it is absolutely worth checking out, because to your point, it may not be Alzheimer's. It could be dehydration. It could be anemia. It could be depression, so many other things. And 1 in 10 times it is something treatable. And so it's really important to get that looked at when you're suspecting something. So there's no standard age, I guess, if that's the question the person is getting at, but certainly at 65, you know, there's the annual wellness visit. But to your point, if people are noticing people at a younger age experiencing this, again, it's worth going to the doctor and check out and ask for that cognitive screening and giving those examples. Like you said, writing the notes, the examples helps the healthcare provider, whether it's a nurse practitioner or a doctor, understand what the concerns are, because that's not always visible just looking at someone.
Absolutely. And Lynn says here, we often joke about going to a room and forgetting why. At what point is this something that should be taken seriously? That's a good one.
Do you want to answer that, Valerie?
I think when it's, you know, you can laugh a little bit about it, but when it starts to really interfere with what you're doing, I think a lot of it, again, is being self-aware. You know, if that's normal for you, you know, and a lot of times we get after ourselves too, right? We go in there, we're like, what was I in here? Yeah, Allah, you know, that's what we say. Like, I was in here. And then sometimes you go out and then you come back in and then you remember, right? So I think when it gets to that point where it's not funny anymore and you're forgetting, it gets serious where, you know, if you have asthma, what if you forgot that where your asthma pump is or whatever, you know, something like that. When it starts interfering with your daily living and it gets serious in that way, that's when I would say that you would need to look at it a lot more. And that's where your notes again should come in. As Edie said, you want to help the physicians to you want to guide them. You know, that's what happens, right? When you go answering something, they're going to ask you, okay, what are you here for? Okay, and then they move on. Is it this? Yes or no? Do you feel this? Yes or no? So in that way, you have to help them so they can help you, and keep asking questions. I think that's the one thing. I know that natives are shy sometimes, but again, you have to be your own advocate. Keep asking questions. If they don't know, you know, go to the 1-800 number with the Alzheimers Association, 272-3900, and talk with somebody. Is this normal? Is this not normal? And even prep yourself, you know, like, what if my doctor says this? I know we do this as women too, and maybe sometimes as natives, we go somewhere, say they're going to say this, and what if they say this to me and they just turn me away? You can talk with that person and say, well, what if they say this? Okay, then you should say this. You know, Larry gets it. See, I know it. We always do that. So maybe you need somebody to talk with about that, and call them at the 1-800-272-3900 number so you can get yourself prepared, so you can get that help for yourself.
That's right. I wondered if, Larry, if you have anything to add to this, or if you want to talk about what NICOA offers, being a co-partner on this and your services available.
I'd be more than happy to. And thank you, Valerie. Great job. Thank you very much for the information. And Edie, thank you for the opportunity to sit down with you, the association, to talk about this problem that's on the horizon. It is coming. And as someone asked a question about prevalence rate, there was a study done that was done out of the University of Washington on population in Native American population in California, where they found that 1 in 3 older American Indians in California are going to be diagnosed within the next few years with Alzheimer's, compared to the non-Indian population of 1 in 5. So if you think about your elderly population and you apply that 33%, which is 1 in 3, to your elderly population, you know there's going to be a problem there. And so one of the things as that Valerie mentioned is that give your elderly things to do so it keeps their brain sharp, functioning at the best level possible. And the National Indian Council on Aging has developed a website called LTSS. So if you go to the NICOA, NICOA.org, and then go to the LTSS website, there's a whole section there on proper nutrition, native tradition, native foods, etc. Because one of the things that we're finding, and in our collaboration with another organization that Edie is very well aware of, is an organization called IA Squared.
Yes.
That one of the things that they're looking at is brain health and how do you keep your brain as healthy as possible? And that's food, exercise, those kinds of things, the best kinds of food. And as Valerie mentioned earlier, Taco Bell is not going to work. Pizza Hut's not going to work. So, and even fry bread is not going to work because that's laden down. So the best thing you can do for yourself in terms of trying to reduce the prevalence rate or possibility of progressing towards the later stages is eat the right kinds of food and exercise, those kinds of things. But in our website, on the LTSS website, there's a section on games. And there was a question that was raised, why do you want to put games there? This is not a fun site. Well, our response was, that is particularly for the people who are interested in playing games to keep their mind sharp. And it keeps and it's fun. Yes, it's fun. But it also is designed for those people who are in that category. Keep their brain sharp, keep them functioning so that they're well aware. And I guess that for me is one of the things that I see that NICOA has, is that website. Our collaboration with the Alzheimers Association, with IA Squared, all of these collaborative and coordinating approaches to the question of Alzheimer's in Indian country. One thing I do know is that we can't do it alone. It needs all of us. We have to develop these kinds of partnerships to get the best information possible. And both Edie and I have been talking about a piece of legislation, for example, and I think that Valerie, you mentioned that earlier, a piece of legislation that was introduced by Senator Ben Lujan of New Mexico and Senator Susan Collins, talking about increasing the number of people from underrepresented people in clinical trials. We have gone on record as supporting that piece of legislation because it is something that's needed. Maybe, for example, the group in California that was studied, how is that different from the ones that say in Minnesota or in Washington or in Arizona? We don't know what the rates might be between different groups of different tribal groups across the country. I know even when I was working for the Navajo Nation, when we're talking about obesity, the obesity rate in the and Valerie, you know this, the areas of Navajo. On the northeastern side is the Shiprock Agency or Eastern Agency. Eastern Agency had a 17% obesity rate compared to 9% in the Southwest region. Why the difference? And so those were questions that one raises when you see these kinds of rates, and maybe be different with the tribes in the Florida panhandle. You know, we don't know, but those are the kinds of studies that we need to have done. And that was one of the reasons why we went on record as supporting Ben Lujan's efforts to do that. But I think that there's also things that we talk about caregivers a lot. And we have a caregiver program, it's called the Savvy Caregiver. And we also working on a disabilities handbook on how to work with people with disabilities. And we're revising because that particular workbook has not been updated since 2002 or something like that. And a lot has happened since 2002 to now. And so we have to sit down and always update the information that we have available. But I think there are some things that we can do for our caregivers to make sure that they're okay, that they're fine, that they're taking care of themselves. We just received a CDC foundation grant to put out information on caregivers. What do you need to do? Take care of those people who need the caregiving and the people who are giving the caregiving. And that now, for example, we have videos airing in over 400 IHS clinics across the country, targeting the youth, the elders, tribal leaders, and the caregivers themselves on how to take care of themselves. And so that's airing right now. And it's also on radio PSAs. I think KTNN, the Navajo Nation, has been airing some of those as well. So we're trying to provide as much information as we can. But I think there's some other things that tribes could do in terms of the caregivers. Most tribal personnel policies were developed years ago before this whole pandemic, the Alzheimer's issues has come up, dementia and caregivers. There are tribal employees who are taking care of people who need care. And they need to revise their personnel policies to allow tribal employees to take time off to take care of without them being penalized and taking annual leave and so forth. Those kinds of just small steps that can happen at a tribal level to make sure that caregivers are taken care of as well. So that would just be some of the comments that I would have from the NICOA side. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity, Valerie, of you coming on and sharing your knowledge and your experience with the rest of Indian country. And Edie, thank you for the Alzheimers Association and the collaboration that we now have. And with the IA squared, for example, they have been doing those studies, and I think it would be really good to continue those kinds of relationships for the benefit of our elders. And so with that, thank you. That would be my comments, Edie. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Larry. It's a pleasure working with you and the whole team at NICOA. So I think those are great words of advice and recommendations. And just to drill down, the bill that you mentioned, ENACT, stands for Equity in Neuroscience and Alzheimer's Clinical Trials. So if anyone's interested in that. And I see that we do have IA squared put in the chat, the LTSS website on NICOA's webpage. And also you can look at their good work. They're involved with the roadmap for Indian country, the Healthy Brain Initiative. Are there other questions that we've neglected or missed perhaps? Do you have reference for the California study? Larry, could you mention again who did that study again?
I'm unmuting myself. There was the University of Washington.
University of Washington.
The study themselves, so.
Okay, Great. I think there was another question around how do you know if it's COVID versus Alzheimer's? Because certainly if you've had COVID, you might experience that brain fog. And again, it's best to get tested. Get tested if you have COVID, and then just to, again, talk to a primary care physician or nurse practitioner, or whoever your healthcare provider is, to first go through that cognitive screening. And as I can't emphasize enough what Valerie said is, keep asking the questions. If your gut instinct is telling you it's more than just aging, it's more than just this bad day I'm having, right? Those notes that you take, keep probing and find the right person who can help you with understanding what's happening.
I would like to add too that you probably want to start looking at your lifestyle. Again, how are you eating? Are you eating whole foods, or are you just going to fast foods? Are you exercising? Even to walk, you know, they say that, what was it, 30 minutes a day? But you don't have to do 30 minutes in a whole 30 minutes. You can actually do 10 minutes in the morning. You can do 10 minutes in the afternoon. You can do 10 minutes in the evening, but doing that type of physical activity. And third would be exercising your brain. What are you doing? Again, are you learning something new? If you're right-handed, use your left hand to open the door, to brush your teeth, to brush your hair, even write. Do some of these games that Larry was talking about. If you can go onto their website, there's apps, word search, checkers, you know, something like that to start sparking your brain and your neurons. I believe a lot of people with the COVID fog, I've been telling them to do that. And then again, keep those notes. Is it something that's worse? Is it something that's helping? You have to do that for yourself to take care of yourself. So in Navajo, we say adahulya. That's part of adahulya. You're noticing yourself, and you're going to need to take care of yourself. How am I eating? You know, those changes in your behavior will definitely help prevent some of these diseases, not just Alzheimer's and dementia, but high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. Those are the things that we're trying to prevent, definitely on Indian country.
Wonderful. Well, we are out of time now. Thank you everyone for attending. I hope you've all learned something new. Thank you, Larry Curley, again for your partnership with NICOA. Valerie, thank you. Wonderful job presenting. And I believe we will be looking at offering some more presentations in the future. This is recorded. We're happy to send this out, and we'll share the slides as well. So with that, thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.